Hello everybody and welcome to Run and Become. Today we are so excited to be talking with one of the most amazing women on this planet. This is somebody who has, stepped out of doing the ordinary patterns of life and has embraced challenge to its utmost, and she's come out on top, successful. Abhejali has chosen to live her life embracing physical, mental, and spiritual challenge. And in her journey to becoming only the fourth woman to complete the Ocean 7, she has embraced a side of her life that came from seeking for the inner journey, for the inner significance to her life. Abhejali will explain to us how she feels this started actually with meditation. So we're going to be talking with Abhejali in a second. But here is a synopsis of her recent achievement. Between 2011 and 2018, Abhejali swam the Ocean 7. Now, this challenge involves 7 ocean swims around the globe, and a lot of us know about the Channel swim, the swim from Ireland to Scotland. There's then also the Straits of Gibraltar, the Molokai swim between Hawaiian Islands, the Cook Strait swim between the islands of New Zealand, the Tsugaru Strait between the islands of Japan, and the Catalina Channel between Catalina and Los Angeles. She is only the 10th person to complete this swim, and she is the only human being to have completed the swim who was born and lives in a landlocked country. This is not the only extraordinary physical achievements that Abhejali has achieved. Before that, she was a runner, an ultra runner, completing everything from a 47-mile race through to a 6-day race. I have known Abhejali for years, decades even, because we both belong to the Sri Chinmoy Meditation Center. So I knew the cheerful, easygoing girl with a great sense of humor before I became aware of the awe-inspiring, driven, motivated woman who has swum the Ocean 7. Did I say that? She has swum the Ocean 7. So we're going to get into just how awesome this was and what her journey was. Abhejali, welcome. Thank you for being here. And I'm just going to dive straight in and say, why swimming?
Thank you, Shankara, for the introduction. I feel really embarrassed.
No, don't embrace it.
Thank you so much. Well, why swimming? I was actually a swimmer when I was a kid, but I stopped, as you usually stop when you get to your teenage years and different things become interesting. But I always liked water. But when I became, a meditation student of Sri Chinmoy, I started running because, it kind of complements each other, running and meditation. And then after some time, I found out, that some students of Sri Chinmoy also were swimming and they swam the English Channel. But I just, knew about the fact, and I never really, had the dream to do the swim myself. I just said, okay, well, maybe if ever, but no, I'm not thinking about it, but if ever I would have to swim breaststroke because that was my style when I was as a kid. And I couldn't swim like when I was a kid, when we had to swim in training 1 hour freestyle, that was like my worst training possible. So I was like, if ever that happens, it has to be freestyle. But, it was very, very in the back of my mind. And but the philosophy of Sri Chinmoy Marathon team is transcendence. So I started with the running. I remember my first run was around a church in front of my house. It was like 5-minute run. And I felt really proud of myself, like I started running. But then,
That's where we all start. We all start with the block.
yes, I felt really good. So I increased the distance, and you also do the like 2 mile race. In London, you organize the races, right? So I did that. Then I did 5K race and 10K race, and it kind of evolved from there. But swimming just somehow came my way, actually.
So you started, you joined the Sri Chinmoy Meditation Center at 18, is that right? And then the running came quickly after that. How long into the running before you're like, I can do more than 10K, I can do more than a half marathon, I can tackle a 47-mile race?
It was, Sri Chinmoy Marathon team started organizing races just when I joined. So, we started, let's say it was 6 hour race. So I wanted to try that. And we did 12-hour race. So I wanted to experience that. So it wasn't really like conscious decision. Okay, I can try this, but somehow the race was there. And I just wanted to try it. And then we did 24-hour race. And somehow that was basically presenting itself in front of me, and I didn't say no.
So did you find it well, easy is probably the wrong word, but a natural transition for you, like going up to those, it's the amount of time, isn't it? It's the amount of time that you're on your feet, and that changing from being such a physical challenge to as much a mental and heart challenge as it is physical.
I, I I didn't feel it was a problem. Like somehow I knew I was never really too fast. So for me, it was probably natural, to do a longer race, because then my endurance was probably better than my speed. So, and at the time there were not that many people running. So it was actually very inspiring just to do the races and be like a pioneer, in Czech Republic with the organizing the races, but also with running the races.
Oh, that's so nice. So, you've been an ultra runner for what, a few years, some years before the opportunity came for the channel?
For maybe 14 years, 15 years.
Oh, okay. So quite a long time.
Yeah, and actually, when I did the 6 day race, which was my longest race, I had a helper. She was my friend, and then those 14 years after that, she was inspired to do the English Channel, and she asked me, would you help me on the boat? And she knew I was a swimmer before, and I was her friend, so I said, sure, why not? It will be something fun and interesting, and I was always happy to do something adventurous. And so that was the plan. There was never a plan for me to swim. But then it was changed. Her solo was changed into a relay. She needed more time to prepare, and since I already had booked my holidays and I was anyway going there, it was kind of natural for me to be part of that relay. And I was really skinny then, and English Channel is really cold. And I remember, we were waiting in Dover for quite some time for good weather to do the swim. And I called my friends at home and I told them, it's so cold, it's super cold, and if ever I want to do a solo swim, please tell me not to do it because it's just so cold.
That worked then.
Yeah, that totally worked. Yeah.
So you were kind of like a last minute substitute for a relay of swimming the channel.
Yes.
Well, I think that goes to the extraordinary aspect of Abhejali, because I don't think there are that many people who could just go, oh, sure, I'll fill in.
Well, it was there. It was probably similar with the running. The distance was there, the channel was there, and I kind of didn't have any real reason not to do it. I mean, apart from that, it was cold, but that I didn't know when I was still at home. I mean, I started taking cold showers and I started eating a lot to gain weight, but still, there was no kind of proper reason not to do it. So
So that's something that's now come up a couple of times. You did the challenge because it was there. It was there to be done. Digging into that, that's not how most people view challenges. So what do you think, is that because the fact that a challenge is there excites you, or did you know instinctively this was a way for you to learn more about yourself, to make more progress inwardly, outwardly?
I definitely knew it would be a transcendence, self-transcendence. And I knew that it would get me out of kind of my ordinary self. And definitely, I knew I would have to make progress outwardly, but also inwardly, not to be scared of the cold water, not to be scared of swimming at night, not to be scared of some, sea animals. So I knew I would have to kind of step into something unknown, and I think that's what drew me. And also, like, every of those challenges was a way to know myself a little bit better, to find out, because when we live in our day-to-day life, it's kind of very comfortable, but then we don't move forward that fast, I think. So it was very much in accordance with the philosophy of Sri Chinmoy self-transcendence. And I was just like trying to see how far it it allows me to go, how far my mind allows me to go, because it is scary, like when you will be in the middle of the ocean, or if you know that you will have to run for 6 days. It's definitely scary for my mind to think about it.
I think that's the really revealing and really cool thing about embracing this kind of challenge. I mean, I'm saying having someone who is, yes, run a 40-mile race, that's the extent of it. But the fact that I was reading a book recently by somebody who won our 24-hour race a couple of years ago. And there's always that element of the challenge being about so much more than what you're physically putting your body through. And the fact that that is something that everybody can identify with, because everybody faces challenge in their life. That might be choosing to go and swim the channel. It might be choosing to run a 24-hour race, but it also might be facing up to the fact that a loved one has got a terminal illness, and you are going to have to look after them, and that's going to put you in a feeling of being so outside your comfort zone that's like a Herculean challenge in itself. And that's what I find so inspiring, or the common thread that runs through all of these amazing endeavors is that anyone can, like, I hope that people watch this video and don't just go, oh, well, I'm not interested in swimming, or I'm not going to be an ultra runner. No, finding that thing that spurs us on, that gives us that strength to overcome whatever that challenge is that's put in front of us.
Yes, I totally agree with you, because the inner strength that we find within ourselves when we do some kind of physical challenge or sports challenge, it definitely translates into our day-to-day life, and you have this willpower, you have this peace inside you, you have this strength inside you, that even if some kind of waves in our day-to-day life come to test us, or we know we can deal with that. And that's so important. Like, the challenge is just part of it. It's not like the goal itself. It just helps me really find that inner strength that we all have. And it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to swim the channel. Every one of us is special and unique in a way. And this is my way of finding the strength inside me. But there are so many ways, and it can be so helpful. It taught me so many qualities, like patience and endurance and willpower and this never giving up attitude. And it's all there. We just have to like knock at the door and find it inside.
Yeah, that's so true, and it's so inspiring. Well, let's get back to that challenge. So you did the marathon relay, the channel relay, and how did you find that experience? And what did you pull on, on the harder moments of that? What gave you the strength then?
It was actually, I mean, we were lucky. It was a daytime swim, and even though at that time I thought, the conditions were not so great, it was just because I didn't know anything about the channel. Because in the end, the conditions were kind of perfect when I look back from the experience that I now have. But I definitely thought after the swim, okay, now I put my toe in the English Channel and I can go back to running. So, I wasn't planning to do any more swimming, but somehow, there's a song actually that Sri composed for the English Channel. And also, he gave some comments and he said that whoever swims the channel becomes like the eternal friend of the channel. And I think I just didn't have any choice, because I was there and I just had to come back.
So you returned for a solo swim?
Yes, 2 years later. I did a swim across the Zurich Lake, which is like 26 kilometers. And I was super cold as well. But then I knew, okay, like if I could do this without too much training, if I gain weight, I had a goal like of gaining maybe 8 kilos. And if I train, then I felt I could do the swim. My friends did tell me that it was cold and if I was really sane in signing up. But it gave me inwardly really a lot of joy. So in November, the year after the relay, I tried to find a pilot that would take me the following year, and I came back.
So, and what was your time for that swim?
For the solo swim?
Yeah.
14 and a half hours.
That's a good time.
Yeah.
So on that relay swim, you're one of 4, is that right?
One of 4, yes.
So what did that mean? Was it one stretch? You go in, you do, because it's 20 miles, but of course with the tides, it ends up being a lot further than that. Were you in once and then you were done, or how did you manage it?
So the English Channel is about 34 kilometers, but the tides definitely can carry you a bit further. And like last minute, we got 2 more team members. So it was me and my friend from Czech Republic, and then we had a friend from Germany and a friend from Iceland. And both of them were really good with the cold water, because for the girl from Iceland, it was like super warm. For us, it was still super cold. And you take turns every hour. So there is an order of the swimmers, and so I swam for 1 hour. I was the one who started. And then you have 3 hours to warm up and get ready for your next swim. And the swim took us, I think, 13 and a half hours. So I went in 4 times. And it was just really, really nice feeling, and nothing, we didn't see any sea monsters. We started in the morning, finished in the evening. Everything went well. So it was just like nice introduction to the channel swimming.
So when you came back for the full swim of the solo swim of the channel, how did that, I mean, obviously that is a very different experience from swimming 1 hour on, 3 hours off. Presumably you started when it's dark, before dawn. You mentioned before sea monsters. I mean, people might not be aware that jellyfish are quite common in the channel, and worse than that also can be experienced. How did you find it that, you also mentioned you're overcoming the fear of swimming in the dark, sea monsters. So how did you find that experience when you were faced with the dark swimming? And also the fact that presumably you are entirely trusting your crew because you can't see France.
So actually, like a very good thing that helped me even before the swim, you know, as you mentioned, we don't have ocean or sea in Czech Republic. So maybe 3 weeks before my tide or my, you know, time for the swim, I went to Dover for a training week or a few days. And I remember it was still very cold, the water. It was like 13 degrees. And there are swimmers training on the beach over the weekends. And Freda Streeter, who is the mother of Alison Streeter, the queen of the channel, she would be there then. And, like she would tell swimmers such as me, how much to train and how much to swim. So she asked me, when is your tide? And when she found out it's in 3 weeks, she was very, very strict with me. And she told me, like, you go in and stay in for 4 hours and you cannot come out before 2 hours. And with the water this cold, I would normally at home, like drink every 20 minutes. And I told her, I can't survive, 2 hours. And she was very strict. No, you have to stay in. And that was very important for me physically, but also mentally, because I knew, if I could survive in 13 degrees, then when I come in a month or in 3 weeks, I will be able to survive at 15 Celsius. So that was a very important part of the training. And then the swim actually starts. It's not always at dawn. It's whenever there is high tide. They somehow calculate few hours after high tide. So sometimes swimmers can start 11 p.m. 3 a.m. It can be totally random, or not random, but depends on the tide table. So I was lucky actually, because we met at the boat at 5 a.m. and the sun started coming out when I started my swim, and the sun was setting when I was finishing my swim. So even though I trained for a swim at night, I didn't need to swim at night. So that was one very helpful thing. And it's really like when you swim the English Channel, you have a boat next to you with a very experienced boat captain who knows where to go. So you just swim next to the boat, so that he makes sure that you swim to France and not anywhere else. And then you have your own team on the boat that gives you drinks and gives you food. And you can't touch the boat. You have to start swimming from the beach, and then you have to swim to the other side without anyone touching you, or you touching the boat. So I remember when I swam to the beach, because the boat can't take you all the way to the beach, um, I meditated for a little while, because you definitely feel overwhelmed. Like you see this expanse of water, and you are such a tiny person, and you are supposed to, swim all this distance. So I did this little meditation exercise when I tried to, just feel the peace inside me, to make sure, my mind wouldn't freak out before anything, before I even started. So that was good. And then the plan was to drink and eat every half an hour. But since the sea was kind of, there were swells, so I got seasick after 45 minutes of the swim. And I kind of never, it never happened to me before during my training. But I had a friend actually from Scotland, Kartik, and he told me in one of the emails before my swim, that if this ever happens, that I shouldn't panic, that it will go away in 5 or 6 hours. So I was trying not to panic. But if you can't really eat or drink anything, it's not really helping you in your mindset. But I mean, I didn't have any doubts, or I didn't want to give up. It was just like a complication on the way. And then after that, I really could start eating after 6 hours. So it was good. And after that, it was, mm, it was just, it wasn't too bad. And actually, one of the advice, like the advice that I got from Freda on the beach, was to never look in front of you, because France will seem very close, but it will take you hours and hours to reach it. So that was very good advice, and I think it's also applicable in our day-to-day life. You know, we should just go one step at a time, and then eventually you reach the goal. So there is no use of looking ahead of you because you're not helping yourself.
That's the channel. That's your first one done. But at that point, you're thinking of swimming the channel. You're not thinking about Ocean 7. So what's that seed of inspiration?
It was actually quite a few years after that's inspiration was sown. The year after the English Channel, I swam around Manhattan in New York, and somehow I found out about this swim, and I really liked the idea because, you know, I did the 6-day race in New York. I did the New York City Marathon, and I like the idea of seeing Manhattan from, you know, the water level. So I did.
So how long is that swim?
It is 45 kilometers, but the tide and the rivers help you. So they time the start so that, you know, the water kind of helps you with the swim. So it took me 8.5 hours. So that was good. I really enjoyed that swim because you know, like you see the UN building and you're just like really swimming so fast that it just passes you very quickly. So it was a very nice swim. And then yeah, I thought, okay, I like that, but that's it.
What's next?
Next, yeah. Then my friend Vashanti, she did Gibraltar that year when I did Manhattan, and I really like the idea of swimming from one continent to the other. You know, like connecting. And it also for the English Channel. You know, we usually say, you know, English Channel separates England from France, but we can also say that it connects England and France. And it's the same with Gibraltar. It connects Europe to Africa, and I just really like the idea of connecting. You know, we usually think this is you know, such a different culture and these people are different, and but we're all like one world family. And it just felt so nice to be able to swim, and it's not that long, it's only 18 kilometers long, so I didn't have to train as much as for the English Channel, so it felt like a nice way to spend my holidays.
But I mean, it's a very narrow strait, as you say, but doesn't that mean that the tide or the currents are extremely strong?
Yes, there are currents, and like Mediterranean, it's more salty, so there are currents going from Atlantic over the water in Mediterranean. So it wasn't actually. I was expecting it to be much easier than it was, but it was a time when I first saw dolphins and I swam with the dolphins.
Well, that's a question that Deepika instructed me to ask. What was it like swimming with dolphins? And in her words, did they speak to you?
You know, it was really interesting because the water in Mediterranean or in Gibraltar, it's really clear and it's very deep. It's like 900 meters or something like that. And I could see really quite deep. And at one point I see two animals, like maybe 5 meters underneath me. So, you know, I stopped breathing and I just swim and to make sure those are dolphins and not sharks, because, you know, like I know from the books how dolphins are supposed to look like, but you know, you want to be sure, right, when you're in the water with them. So when I kind of established that those are dolphins, I told the girls on the boat, I see dolphins, and they were like, yeah, they're, you know, jumping all around here and there's so many of them here. So it was really nice. And I mean, I wanted to swim with the dolphins, so I kind of was invoking them, but I'm not sure if I could say that I talked to them or they talked to me.
Subliminally.
Yeah.
You're both enjoying the swim in the water together.
Definitely.
So that's the Gibraltar. What came next?
My friends were organizing another English Channel relay, so I became part of that relay. So even though that year there was no swim planned, somehow the universe planned another swim for me. So that was good. And I think at that time I found out about the Ocean 7. But when I read about the different swims, I read about Catalina, but there are sharks there, like even the great white sharks. And then there was the North Channel, which is really, really cold. So it's like not for me, definitely not for me. But then when we were training in Dover for the relay, there were people coming, and there were like signs for me to do the swim, because there was a guy, he was from California. He looked at Catalina Channel from his window, and he offered to lend us his kayak for the swim. And there was this other lady that just came back from Catalina, and she swam the channel, and she told me about some kind of shark repellent. I was like, okay.
Or like a spray?
It was a spray, actually.
How does that work in water?
I mean, of course, yeah. I wasn't sure how that would work, but even though I wasn't sure, it still opened some kind of door for me just to think about it. Not to say, okay, not for me, but just yeah. And then my friend actually moved to San Diego, so I could stay with her. Like things were just happening, and so then it was Catalina Channel the next year.
So how long is that? And did you see any sharks?
So Catalina Channel is the same distance as the English Channel. But you swim, you start at night. You start like 10 p.m. because it's less windy at night. And for that, it was our relay the year before. We had to swim at night, so that was a good preparation for Catalina Swim. And Catalina Swim was beautiful. There is this. You start at night. It's dark, and when you just like when your arm goes through the water, there is bioluminescence, so you can see all these little stars in the water with every stroke that you take. And when I started at Catalina, there were these flying fish, and then at the end there were dolphins again. So it was just beautiful, and there were no waves. I wasn't seasick. It was just perfect. So after this swim, I thought, I can't stop here. So yeah, I was definitely hooked at that time.
Right. So, I mean, following on from that, you have, what was the next one?
Next one is Tsugaru in Japan, but
Right.
actually before that, I always admired Nelson Mandela. And there is this short swim in South Africa from Robben Island, where he was imprisoned for a long time, and it's very, very cold, but it's short. So I wanted to do the swim at some point. And I thought, when would be a better time now when I'm trained for the cold water. So I did that swim. I still didn't plan to do the Ocean 7 because there was still the cold, very cold North Channel. Even English Channel was a big challenge for me, so North Channel still not good for me. But then when we came to South Africa, the water was extremely cold. It was like 9 degrees only. None of the locals were swimming because it was just too cold. So after I survived this swim, I said, okay, that's a sign for me to go, even to try and be brave enough for the North Channel as well. And so after that, I started really planning my next swims. So that was Japan. After that was Hawaii, North Channel, and Cook Strait.
Now, I wanted to talk to you about Hawaii because I've seen you on one of speak of the Hawaiian experience, and you went into that thinking, oh, that's not going to be the hardest of these 7. That's going to be one of the easier ones. But your experience was quite different from that. And I want to ask, how do you talk to yourself in that situation? You've gone in thinking, I've done the channel, I've done, potentially meeting sharks, I've done 9 degrees at Robben Island. This should be, just not such a challenge for me. When you hit that unexpected level of difficulty, how do you talk to yourself? What do you pull on to overcome it?
Mhm. So for Hawaii, the swim is it's the longest of the swims. It's 42 kilometers, so it's basically a marathon. And I started 7 p.m. or something like that, so it was dark in an hour or so, and I got seasick again. So when you can't really eat or drink anything and you really throw up the whole time, your body becomes dehydrated and you really don't have any power. So at that time, I was, singing for myself, just spiritual songs or mantras, or we even ask friends around the world to think of us and kind of pray and just be positive, have positive thoughts. And I couldn't do, of course I could give up, but that wasn't really like a plan for me, even though at some point I was really really so exhausted. It was at night and we arrived 3 days earlier, so we were all jet lagged, and I wasn't sure, like physically if I would be able to make it. But I just really concentrated on, staying positive, breathing, and just, putting one arm in front of the other. There was kind of nothing else, to do. And I wanted to give it my all. I was ready to be, taken out of the water if it was necessary, but I wanted to give it, all that I had. And after the sun came up, I could start eating, but it was, like 12 hours into the swim. So I was still, exhausted, but I could start eating. So that was good. Then there was a kind of nasty jellyfish that got me. So that took my mind away for a while from, being exhausted. Maybe it was good. And then I usually don't ask how far it is still to go, because when you're in the pool, if it's 3K, it will take you 1 hour. In the ocean, you never know, because there are currents that can be helping you, but usually they're not helping you. And usually my question would be, are we still moving forward? Because that's a good sign. Once you're moving forward, that means eventually you will get there. But I was like, after I saw the sun already, way up there, I knew it was kind of probably noon or something. So we've been swimming for, I don't know, a long time, since 5 p.m. So then I asked how far to go. And they told me, I think 7 miles, which in my speed would be 3.5 hours. So I was like, okay, even if I go slower, okay, 4 or 5 hours. Then I asked in 1 hour and it was still 6 miles. So I was going half my speed. And then at the end, they told me, you have 1 mile to go and you have to sprint. And how can you sprint after 20 hours of swimming? And they told me, if you don't make it, the current will take you back. So that was very stressful, but I just try to give it my best, because that's all basically you can do. There is nothing else for you. I would pray, I would try to, again, stay positive, still do my mantras, but yeah, that's basically all you can do.
So that is sort of a message of staying in the moment, isn't it? To a large extent. And that's something that I've heard from ultra runners as well. When you face a hard patch, when your body's suddenly telling you, I'm not sure I can do this, you just concentrate on this lap, this stroke, this moment, and who knows what the next moment will bring. But also, I think the other thing you're targeting there is positive thinking, not letting the negative overtake. And whether that's, I suppose everyone has to find the little tricks, don't they, to keeping that positivity with you, with the mantra and reminding yourself of your meditation.
Yes. And it was also good. I had, because there's such big swells in Hawaii, the larger boat is in front of you and you have a kayaker next to you. So I had my friend Harita next to me, and it was just really nice to see her, being positive as well. So also even though it's just you doing the swim, it's so important to have, great friends around you who know you, who are athletes as well. That helps a lot, and they know what you're experiencing. And it was just really, really helpful to have her there.
Yeah, and in saying that, I think you've shown that Harita also is quite the endurance athlete herself, because I certainly couldn't kayak beside you for 24 hours.
Well, there was another kayaker, so they took turns, but it was really interesting because she kayaked for me at night. The other kayaker started, then she kayaked like most of the night, because that was my most difficult part. And then when the sun came out and it was her turn to kayak again, she said, I can't go, the waves are too big. Because like she could see the waves, but they told her it was much worse at night, so then she finally decided to go in anyway. But yeah, it was really good to have her there.
Yeah, I think they're the unsung heroes of every supreme, endurance challenge, are the helpers, and they make you or break, their words of encouragement. Yeah, untold strength you get from this, right?
It doesn't have to be even words, just the fact that they are there for you. They are giving their best, to help you. There is this oneness they have with you. Uh, and, like one of the most beautiful experiences that I had in my swimming were just this feeling of oneness, because Shrichima Marathon team, we have members around the world, and they were, we have this whiteboard on the boat, and they would write messages, and sometimes there would be so many messages that they would just write all these names, and like they're saying hi, and I would have tears in my eyes, because you could definitely feel this oneness. And on my swim, I think it was in Japan, like Czech Republic was, I started swimming in the morning of Japanese time. So it was like beginning of night in Czech Republic. And I could totally feel that people were sleeping and not, like there with me. So all these, like we may be at totally different places, and different people, but there is this oneness that's really nice.
The oneness world. Yeah.
Mhm.
We all need reminding of that.
Yeah.
We are at the end of it on a very small planet,
Mhm.
and there are many billions of us, but what unites us is far more than what divides us. Okay, so just heading back to the Japanese swim for a moment. Um, what are the conditions of that? Is it very cold water? Is it very far?
The distance is between Honshu and Hokkaido, between the two islands, and the shortest distance, I think it's only like 18 kilometers, but it's unswimmable because the current would take you somewhere and you wouldn't be able to land. So like the tricky part of this swim is that the boat first takes you like 10 kilometers further from the island that you are swimming to, and then you start swimming. And I remember like it was tricky for my mind, because at some point I would see land, and I would think, oh, maybe we are so fast, and we will be right there. But it was just the point where we started from, and then it took me quite a long time to swim. And they called the stretch, I think, like a dragon stretch or something like that. And it was really like the water was, I would probably say, it was like swimming in a washing machine, because you were turned, all places, and it was hard to get into some kind of rhythm. But like in the end, I finished at the ideal point at the a lighthouse at the like very bottom of Hokkaido Island. So in the end, it was quite straightforward, but uh, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Like Catalina was definitely beautiful, beautiful, easy, easy peasy. None of these other swims were that way.
Well, that's an interesting thing of not being able. I mean, as a runner, you know what it's like if you can't get into your stride. So if you can't get into your swimming stride and keep that rhythm going, presumably that's a lot more exhausting.
Oh, it probably is, because, you know, like normally I would breathe every three strokes. So then, you know, like it's regular breathing, and you can basically get into some kind of meditation because you are one with the ocean, or you know, you become one. Your mind gets quiet when you swim. But when it is, you know, tossling you like this, you turn to breathe and you sometimes can't breathe. So it's not such an easy, you know, state, flowing state. You just have to really kind of concentrate to be there at that moment, and to you know, just keep going as well as you can.
And then you also swam between the channel between the two New Zealand islands. Was that a similar thing with, you know, tumultuous waves and, you know, strong currents?
For, you know, like for one of my swims, I was hoping it would be like a mirror, like, you know, surface. And Cook Strait was actually the last swim. So since it hasn't happened before, I thought, okay, this will be the swim. And I imagined this beautiful flat surface, and me just, you know, me making the ripples. And when I arrived in New Zealand, there was a cyclone Gita coming. So there were, you know, floods, and it was, yeah, the sea was very, very rough. And if this was my first swim, I would totally say, no, I'm not going in. So it was a battle, and I think my time is like the second slowest ever in Cook Strait, because I got seasick from all the waves, and yeah, there were jellyfish. Yeah, it was a whole experience, like a last, you know, like battle before reaching the finish line. Just this, okay, show what you have.
Is about to swap out, and Stacey is ready to go on the kayak. Pretty excited about it because she's not feeling so good. Although she looks fantastic, we've got a lot of seasickness going on board and off board right now.
What is it? Okay, takže červený is ginger tea a má v sobě warming. Tohle je Coca-Cola.
Going great, Abhejali. Lots of people are sending messages and praying, and so when can I do dropping?
It'll help. Cože? Coca-Cola ti pomůže.
This one's quite strong.
Tohle je silné. Not too much. Silné.
You're doing really well. We're proud of you. We're very proud of you.
So you were really made to work for that one. But yeah. Would the victory have been so sweet if you hadn't proven? I mean, that's really key, isn't it? The fact that if you'd started with that, you wouldn't have started. But finishing at that point, you've got all this experience, and you're just like thrown some kind of, I don't know, Greek Olympian challenge to finish off with, and prove your mettle, prove that the oceans can't throw anything at you that can stop you.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, prove that you deserve this. It totally felt like it. And, you know, like in the middle, for maybe 3 hours, I was swimming in one place. basically, you know, on the video after my swim, I saw that, you know, in half an hour, I would cover 400 meters and then I would have my drink and the current would take me back. So, you know, and in the water, you don't necessarily know about it because, you know, there is no lane underneath you as in the swimming pool. So you keep swimming. But at some point I ask, you know, my question, are we moving forward? And they didn't want to tell me this, of course, which is very wise. You know, they don't want to discourage you. So they very tactically said, you know, the tide will change soon. So I kind of knew something is tricky, but when the tide changes, it's usually good news.
The diplomatic way of saying
Yes.
no.
And then I saw the video, you know, what was happening on the boat, like this huge discussion with the pilot and what to tell me and what not to tell me and what's really happening. So it was, yeah, that was interesting.
Was there any point in that final swim where you thought, did the doubt ever enter of, I might not make it, I might not complete this? And if so, how did that play on your mind?
It was difficult at the start because I knew it would be, you know, very difficult, the swim, because I knew the conditions were far from, you know, ideal. During the swim, there were not doubts, but again, you know, like I was seasick, so I knew I was taking a long time, you know, because also Cook Strait is not so long, it is 26 kilometers. So it shouldn't take me so long. And I knew I was in the water for a long time, but I didn't have any doubts. It wasn't that, you know, I was okay. I was probably used to being seasick already. So I could go. And only at the end, after I finished, they told me that it was basically the last point where we could finish, because then the land would go like away from us. So there was a lot of grace, I think, there as well.
Well, that's also life. When one battles and when one throws everything one has at it, grace does tend to descend and do the rest for us. Well, then, just before we talk about the North Channel swim, you're the only one that we haven't spoken about. I also want, you know, talking about this adversity side. What is your experience when things are going well, when, you know, the flow is there, the conditions are great, you're going to be in the water for, you know, 10, 20 hours, I don't know, but, you know, things are good. Do you find that you embrace that fully, relish that fully, or is it less consequential because actually you're always thinking of the next stroke, the next, you know, feed point, you know, like keeping that concentration on the swim itself?
I actually really like it when there is this flow, because you, at that point, you are just kind of part of the whole thing. There is not that much effort. Of course, there is still physical effort, but you are just there. And it's definitely like a meditation. Like when you go for a really long run, your mind gets exhausted, and you have seen everything that is, you know, happening on the boat, and you have, you know, enjoyed all these surroundings, everything, you know, falls into place, and then you are just there, and you are this, you know, really tiny person on this huge ocean, and you feel this even humility, you know, and you're grateful that you are allowed to be there, that it's you, you know, that can be there, and that you're allowed to swim to the other side. It's just this really nice feeling in your heart, that your heart gets bigger and you are just very grateful.
Is that something that brings you back to those challenges? Do you find that feeling in your, you know, the rest of your life, or do you find that you kind of crave that? Because I think I'd crave that.
Yeah, even just now talking about it, it brings you that feeling and that kind of meditation in your heart. And in my day-to-day life, you know, I'm sometimes like too absorbed in things that are happening and in problems that can be just in my mind. You know, you don't find that much time to just sit down and, you know, meditate. Or even if I sit down to meditate, it's not that easy because you keep thinking, okay, I have to do this and this. Whereas when you are there in the water, that's basically your only task, to swim, and your mind has no task. So it can be really peaceful and quiet and doesn't create any problems. So it's probably even easier than yeah, than in our day-to-day life.
Mm. Okay, well, that's filling me with other questions, but we must talk about this North Sea swim. So I remember when you were preparing it for it, because you went up to a friend of ours, a common friend of ours has a little house up in the very north of Scotland, and you went to train in one of the locks up there. And I remember, we were working with your sister then, Sister Jana was working at Run and Become here. So it was all the talk about the fearsome temperature. How was that race different in your sort of mental preparation as well as your physical? And what was the experience of the swim in the end?
I definitely took the preparation for this swim really seriously. I knew I could do the distance. It's again very similar to the English Channel, but I'm like naturally not a cold water person. So I gained extra weight. That was one thing. I started going, for swims in winter, just 5-10 minutes. And then I came to Scotland actually twice. Once I trained in Edinburgh, and then I went to Ullapool, and the training was merciless. It was just like so cold, and you're going to Scotland, which would be great because I love Scotland, but then that you will be swimming for 6 hours, 5 hours, and you will be sore and you will be really cold. And luckily, Davala, our friend, she came with me, and even when I swam for 6 hours, she would be there on the beach, and I would come out every half an hour to get something to drink, and she would make sure I would still survive the next half an hour. And it was just like the whole preparation was really, really tough. And I was reading about like all things I could do to help me do the swim. And in the end, like the actual swim, I think I was really well prepared. When I came home from Scotland, everything here in Czech Republic is too warm for to train the cold. So, and that would be the worst part probably of my training. I would take cold bath, and I would, we have a restaurant, vegetarian restaurant in Zlín, and I would get ice from that restaurant, put it in my bath, and stay in for as long as I could, like 45 minutes or so. And that was the toughest, because you're just lying there trying to survive. I listened to a lot of audiobooks with Harry Potter again, to take my mind away from the cold. And so yeah, that was the training. And then when we came to because you start from North Island and you swim to Scotland, when we we arrived a few days earlier, and we went swimming with the local swimmers, and they told us that the local Coast Guard, they say that the survival time in those waters is 2 hours. So that is totally what you want to hear, right? When you have a swim that can take you 15 hours or so. But in the end, I mean, there were jellyfish, these beautiful jellyfish, lion mane jellyfish, but they're beautiful from a distance. You don't really want to get too close to them, but it was okay. There was a seal that was interested in what was happening. And then there was a storm coming at the end, but it was really nice. I tried to swim as fast as possible because I knew, I had to be fast not to get cold. And actually at some point they even told me, you know, you're going for the record. Just keep it, or speed up or something like that. I was like, seriously, I'm trying my best and you're telling me to speed up. And I didn't care for any record. I just wanted to, you know, make sure I get there because I didn't want to come, you know, back again for this one. It was cold, but it was, you know, I wasn't super cold. It was good.
Yeah, and you had your sister Jana with you, didn't you? And Davla, who works in our Edinburgh store. And Davla's a really, I think, probably a really great person to have as your crew because she's got a great sense of humor. But she's, you know, she's made of strong stuff as well. And I can imagine she can say the right words to you when, you know, when you're struggling.
She even spoke Czech to me. No, she was perfect. She was with me for my English channel swim as well, and she definitely knows. She's a runner, excellent runner herself, and she's totally there. And she experienced the training with me. So even at some point, you know, during the swim, I told them, you know, I'm cold. But she was like, oh, you look much better than you looked when we trained. So you're like, forget it, you're fine.
Yeah. Well, that is your seventh swim. Now, when you finish that massive effort, massive challenge in New Zealand, how often after these things there can be a real sense of anticlimax? But I'm guessing the fact that these swims were broken up over years maybe helped with that. How have you found the transition since then? How have you sort of recalibrated your goals?
You know, it was never problem for me. I read about people having, you know, like problem with motivation after reaching their goal, but there were just so many things that I, you know, wanted to do in my like regular life, in my sports life. There were still challenges, there were still peace runs that I wanted to take part in. So basically it was just easy. I mean, it felt nice that there's, you know, some kind of completion, and that I was really grateful that, you know, I got to that point, because as I said, I never really planned these swims, and they were kind of unfolding. Like if someone told me after the relay, the first relay, you know, you will do these swims, I would say, you're crazy, I'm not doing this. So, you know, one swim was preparing me for the next swim, and it was just like this beautiful journey. But I guess since it was never my you know, primary goal to do these swims, it was like this path to, you know, finding more about myself, learning more about myself. That it's still, you know, it's still happening. It's not completed with the last swim. So I guess I mean, that's my explanation, you know, why this is there was no, you know, like disappointment or low after the swims.
So do you have, well, as you say, in a way, you never set those goals in the first place. You just followed the lead of it and followed the inspiration. Since 2018, you know, you've, have you gone back to ultra running, or, you know, what have your sort of physical challenge experiences been?
I started to train for a triathlon, but then I unfortunately had an accident on the bike, so that you know, stopped me for some time. But if this year evolves in some good way, then I hope there will be some, you know, some challenges in front of me. But who knows, we can't really plan nowadays. So
well, when you say triathlon, I'm thinking, oh yeah, so how long till we hear that you're doing the London to Dover, swim Dover, you know, cycle London to Dover, swim from Dover to Calais, and run from Calais to Paris?
yeah, well, something shorter first.
That's something to maybe come back to in the future. So Abhejali, you did a TED talk in Czech, didn't you? And there were a couple of things that you said in that. It was a fairly short, 20-minute piece, but a couple of things that you said in such a sort of like normal, not a big deal way, but which had such power and such resonance. And I just wanted to bring those up because I found them so inspiring. That you've kind of got a motto of be bold, be brilliant. And I just love that. And especially from a female perspective as well, that to embrace all, and find all our strengths, inner and physical and outer and everything. Can you say more of where that be bold, be brilliant come,
It was actually, like the motto of the whole TED conference was to be bold and brilliant. So then I was preparing for, and that's actually why they asked me to be part of it, because they felt what I do is definitely bold. And for me to think about it, it's, and especially like girl power, we definitely do need more girl power in the world, and we need to stop be, shy and just hide behind. We need to be bold to really, because like we have this laugh and this intuition and embracing quality, we as women. And even for me, like to go on that stage and and talk about my experience, I still feel like this little girl. But we I think we each need to do our best to help, I don't know, ourselves, but also to make the world better. If I get better, and if I can, during my way of doing things, if I can inspire people, I think that's really great, because there are so many people that inspire me. And also, to be this bold and this brilliant person, I have to aim high. So and I read somewhere, that if your goal doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. And there are definitely things that that scare me, one of those being talking in front of all those people, and the other thing, just getting into that water with sharks. So but we shouldn't, there is our mind that limits us, and my mind was totally telling me, like, you can't go on that stage, and you can't do this swim, it's just too dangerous. And we all, like, everyone has this talk with ourselves, like one part says, oh, you can do it, that's fine, you will see, and if you fail, that's fine. Then there's this other part that says, but that will totally embarrass me, and I can't do it. So we we have this internal talk, and I think we just can't give in to to our smaller self, and we have to embrace the challenges. And I think that's what I love about not just the swims, but about life in general. Just to there are things that are not easy, and there are different things coming my way, and I think they're coming my way for me to learn. And sometimes I can be upset, or I might not like it, but it's still a good way to to move and to grow and to be bold and brilliant.
Well, I have to say that's what I really loved about that clip. I love the fact that you were standing there as a kind of like glowing, normal looking woman, very feminine. And as you say, you still feel like that little child. You still have that sweetness, that childlike sweetness I think you do carry. And I loved seeing you standing up there, and you're talking about something that, if you just focus on what those 7 swims were, you can imagine, like, you've got to be this huge, hulking, power giant to take on these oceans. But you're standing there going, no, strength comes in all different forms. And right now, the strength in you is coming from someone who's found the path of meditation, has found the strength that's given her, and is standing there as, as a lovely female, embodiment of of everything that Mother Nature gives us, and that there is more than one way to imagine power. It comes in many guises. Well, to finish off with, the other thing that struck me from your talk was you said choose joy and confidence. I think that plays into, I think we've seen how you embrace joy, because otherwise you wouldn't have done those huge challenges. You got strength from your joy and confidence. And again, that is something, I mean, who of us doesn't need more joy and more confidence?
Yes, and it's definitely constant work, and I'm sure like every day there's so many decisions that we make, like big or small ones. Okay, I think I talked about it in the talk as well. Starting in the morning, I meditate every morning, and even this morning I was like, oh, I think I need to sleep a little bit more, but I didn't give in. Sometimes I do give in. And then you have this, this joy that you did the right thing. And that's basically like why I do all these things, all the decisions that I make. I want to be at the end of the day, I want to be happy. Recently I read or I listened to a podcast, and it was about death of someone that you love, and I really like the approach of the girl, and she said, we have to live every day so that at the end of the day we could easily say, okay, I don't mind if this is my last day. I lived it so fully. And I think that's such a good approach to really do the best that we can, and then we are happy no matter what the result. And to be able to to tell myself in the evening, okay, this can totally be my last day, because we don't know when our last day is going to be. It's just perfect, I think.
Abhejali, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been joyful and illuminating, and I've loved every minute, and I'm sure all of our Run Become watchers will also get so much from this. And I just end by saying we look forward to seeing what happens in the future. Do come back and talk to us again, and thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Shankara, for having me and for doing these interviews, because it's really nice, to watch and to get inspired, because there are so many people that can inspire us.
Yeah, we all need inspiration. We all do inspire each other.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.